the FIIs approached the government expressing certain difficulty. The government considered their difficulty, and the finance minister in his budget announced that they will be exempted from MAT. Now naturally, when you provide an exemption, you provide that exemption prospectively. For the past period, there were some judicial pronouncements which were against the FIIs. They were favorable to revenue. The judicial pronouncements confirmed, interpreted the law by saying that MAT was indeed and actually leviable. Now when there is a judicial pronouncement, the correct thing to do against that judicial pronouncement, if you are not happy, if you are aggrieved by that, is to go to the next higher judicial forum. Now, if there is one judicial pronouncement, the answer is to go to the next higher judicial forum and not expect or not expect or not to sort of rush to the government saying that you amend the law retrospectively. That is not correct. That is not in order. Judicial body has interpreted the law. The right course of action for an aggrieved person is to go to the next higher judicial forum. In between, how can the government intervene through an executive action or by initiating a legislative action to undo something which is a part of a judicial pronouncement? And let us also keep in mind that considering their difficulties and their representations, in fact it has to be appreciated that prospectively this problem has been resolved. The past problems which is bound by judicial pronouncements have been completely isolated, and it has to be dealt with in the proper legal manner. The due process of law has to be followed.
While following this due process of law, don't you think that this might just end up again in litigation, unending litigation? So where do you see a solution to this? I mean, obviously we understand that perhaps a retrospective relief here is out of the question, but where do you see this entire issue with the MAT on FIIs going forward?
See, as I explained to you, this is a case of expecting a retrospective exemption, to be given, which arises out of a judicial pronouncement. You have to deal with that by going to the next higher judicial forum. Now with regard to litigation, there could be litigation arising out of this case, and naturally in every country there are there are corporates and there are individuals who are not satisfied with judicial pronouncements or regulatory pronouncements, and they go to the next higher regulatory forum or the judicial forum to seek a remedy. So this is not something which is unusual and which is happening only in India. Tax-related litigations do happen everywhere. But so far as India is concerned, we have taken number of measures to reduce litigation. Let me mention one example. When the finance minister announced in the budget that he is going to reduce the corporate tax rates from 30% to 25%, he has also said that all exemptions will be eliminated in a phased manner. And take it from me, maximum number of litigation in our country are related to exemptions. So when all the exemptions are eliminated, the number of tax-related litigation will substantially come down.
What do you make of this entire issue that has erupted with Cairn? Do you think that this should have been handled better, this entire tax demand of over 20,400 crore? Because this stokes the fear of the ghost of the retro tax coming back again.
You see, again, this is one issue which has to be understood and seen in the proper context, in the proper perspective. With regard to the case which you are referring to, normally we do not discuss individual cases, but yes, you have raised a particular case. In this case, the notice, the first show cause notice was issued in January 2014, well before the July 2014 budget.
Well before this new government took over,
And the process was on. The assessing officer had issued a show cause notice and he was gathering information. Company was required to furnish some information. The company took its time to furnish the information. Full information did not come. The officers had to gather information from elsewhere. So now the case recently reached a stage where the assessing officer passed a final assessment order. So it's an old case. And we have not deviated from the finance minister's commitment in the July 2014 budget that all fresh cases will be referred to a high-level committee. Keynes was not a fresh case. It was already under process. And something which was already under process, naturally the due process of law has to be followed and the assessment has been completed.
But again we see an outcry from Cairn, which you are saying not specifically Cairn, but there has been unfair criticism of the government. Here the matter is further complicated because time and again you have tried to explain that this is a draft demand notice, but already Cairn has slapped a BIPA notice, they've dragged you to court. So where do you see this entire controversy going?
See, the company has, I think, already gone to the High Court, and the High Court will take a view, and the High Court will give its verdict. We have to wait for the High Court orders. With regard to the BPA notice, it will come up, at some stage for consideration of the government. But again, on this BPA issue, let me mention that it has been our consistent view that tax disputes cannot be a matter of arbitration. They have to be judicially and legally settled following the due process of law.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.